Hi, I'm Marissa, and I'm here to introduce Marcia Baptista. In her art, Marcia deals with figures and environments and how their interaction reveals a narrative. She believes that the space a person inhabits is as important as the person itself. She works to provide depth to the context brought out by the two elements. She primarily focuses on the home and the dynamics that are created within it, drawing from the personal experiences and cultural influences to highlight the dynamics within domestic spaces. She plays with themes such as intimacy and conflict and how these emotions manifest in the interactions between the figure and its environment.
Thank you, Marissa, for helping with that introduction and today's technical support. And Marcia, thank you for agreeing to this interview. It's interesting because Marissa and I both found your work in the Reflections exhibition uh, uh, striking, and it held our attention. You're not necessarily one of the prize winners. That's not what I and Marissa are doing today, although later today you may become one. I certainly hope so. Uh, what we're really doing is just trying to take about a 15 or 20-minute intensive look at the work that you have in this current exhibit, hoping to promote our viewers in coming to the exhibit before it closes at the end of the month, and to look carefully at your work, and maybe to check your website and get to know your work more completely. So hearing your artist statement and seeing this portrait of you that accompanies it, the photographic portrait, I'm just going to jump ahead a little and not follow the what I had imagined to be my series of questions. Is this you? Is this a
No,
self-portrait?
no, it's actually my younger sister.
Oh, okay. So the resemblance is very striking and natural. Uh, do you always depict family, or do you ever use professional models, or work with interiors that are outside of a domestic setting?
As of right now, I primarily use family as models as it is easier.
Yeah.
Um, but in terms of space, I do try to keep it domestic.
Is there any particular reason for that? I mean, something in your personal life or artistic education that you want to share with us?
It's mainly because I've always had an interest in how people become who they are and how that really starts at home. And I
Hmm.
wanted just to play with like exploring the like patterns of people, patterns of life that come from the house that could lead to how these people interact outside.
Thank you for sharing that with us. I'm a trained art historian.
Mhm.
And when I look at an image like this and hear your comments about why you explore this theme, I immediately think of artists of other periods, and I'm curious whether you're familiar with them or they influenced you. So, in the 19th century, in America, there was a very popular painter named Lily Martin Spencer, and she almost exclusively painted domestic interiors with herself and her family members as the subjects. Are you familiar with her work?
I am not. I actually draw my inspiration from Wilhelm Hammershoy. My professor while I was at LPED was the one that showed me him,
Oh,
introduced me to Hammershoy.
okay. Well, we'll have to, Marissa, we'll have to make a note of that so we can both explore it later.
Yeah.
And hopefully the audience will too. I'm not familiar with that artist, but if you are one of his students, then I am immediately curious because your work is very
Oh,
strong, I think.
no, my professor, his name is Kenny Harris.
Oh,
He also
oh,
paints interiors, but
okay.
the artist, I think he was, if I remember correctly, is a Danish interior painter,
Mm.
Wilhelm Hammershoy.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to check him out. I should know his name then, probably. Are you familiar with the German 19th century painter, Caspar David Friedrich, who also painted very beautiful interiors and landscapes? And light was a powerful force in his work as it is in yours.
I think I have seen some of his work,
Yeah,
his
yeah,
his landscapes mainly.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's not art history 101, so I'm going to stop quizzing you now. When I looked at this, I did think that it was possibly a self-portrait because
Mhm.
that's so common if a painter is interested in the figure to paint themselves. But it's your younger sister, and that makes me even more uh, inclined to ask the next question, which is, this seems very evocative. The light and particularly the turn of the figure's head, the half light across the base, the everything about it makes me wonder what it is interior to the figure that is going on, and can I connect with that and respond to that? Is that
Mm.
what you're trying to communicate, that kind of sense of interiority?
So, the painting itself was inspired or was influenced by the Greek myth Icarus. Well, I was
Mhm.
thinking about the story and like the lesson behind it, and I wanted to play with the idea of uh, light not being so much an element of goodness or and more so blindness. And in
Mhm.
this case, um, I wanted to use my younger sister as a model because she is young, and youth is usually a symbol of innocence. And in this case, I wanted it to sort of create this feeling of manipulation of uncertainty.
Hmm. Hmm. How old
Um,
is your sister at the time that you painted this?
I believe she was about 12 years old when I took the photograph. I finished this painting last year.
Well, that's very interesting to me on a personal level, and I'm sure some of the other viewers will find some connection here. I have a granddaughter who's just about to turn 11, and I've seen her sort of stand and look at me or look at someone with this kind of expression. So it really connected with me on a more emotional level than a lot of portraits, figure painting, that sort of thing does.
Mm.
So I think you've captured that stage in a young woman's life in a very compelling way. Marissa, you want to jump in here because it seems like a good segue as a young woman yourself.
Yeah.
You don't need to talk about what we were just talking about unless you feel like it, but you and I were talking about some interesting things you found as a painter in Marcia's technique and her mastery of light.
Something one of the artists I mentioned earlier, Nick, he also does something similar where puts these figures in a very, very bright room, and the light in some areas almost washes some things out. However, with perspective, our eyes still keep moving forward throughout the painting. And I think
Mm.
your perspective in here is so good. And I love how you compose the composition in this piece with the figure almost center, but not quite. And then with the walls doing different things, and you're guiding our eyes through the picture very well, I think. I do want to ask, and I'm not sure if you notice this too, Will, but in the mirror there are two eyes. And I thought that white shadowy figure was like a reflection of Icarus at first.
Mm.
Marcia, if you're able to share what that ghostly figure is to you, um, I think
I
that would
did
be great.
notice that, and I was curious.
When I was painting this, I wanted to show her right before she walks into the light, as if it's a conscious decision, but she stops just before to look at you, as if to seem as you can stop her, or will you stop her? The person in the reflection could be authority or a trusted adult, a deception. I wanted it to be in the reflection as if you could be that person, you could be that thing that she's looking to, but she doesn't know uh, whether or not you could hurt her or whether or not you could help her.
I actually connect that with that a lot. This uncertainty when we're looking towards adults, the feeling like, are they going to help us? How are they going to impact our steps moving forward and such? And I think me and another one of my coworkers actually discussed feeling like it might be us in the mirror, but we were also uncertain about that, and we're really curious about what you had to say. So thank you.
Yes, I think that showed
You.
a great deal, Marcia, on your part, a great deal of sort of intentionality in the best sense. You had something complex and challenging in the life of any adolescent, but particularly perhaps adolescent girls, because of the challenges that society, all societies, and even modern society tend to put on them that are not put on males. This is a very, I think, complex and really masterful painting in terms of, as Marissa was saying, perspective, but also light, composition, all of those elements, but you've given it this richness and depth emotionally, and it's very thoughtful. So it takes it beyond the level of paintings that are are technically brilliant, and then there's really nothing beneath the surface to continue to connect the viewer or keep the viewer concentrated on it and thinking about it. So I applaud what you've done. I'm just sitting here and I'm looking at the painting while I hear you speak about it, and it seems more and more rich and complex.
Marcia, do you feel like throughout life you had several questions about adolescence that you try to express through art? And the other images that you've shared with us, such as this one and even this one, it feels like these people in these domestic spaces are going through some difficult times that they necessarily aren't sharing themselves, but you're hinting at a much bigger emotional story that could be occurring. And when I see work like this that has a lot of implied narratives and implied emotions, I always wonder about the artists if these are topics that they've always thought about throughout their life and they are now expressing through art as they gain the technical skills to do so. And do you feel like that is something you are doing here, just expressing thoughts you've had throughout life? Any questions?
I would say so, yes. I had the privilege of working with Kenneth Harris, and he really taught me a lot about how to do interiors and how to make them work to my advantage and sort of use them in the narratives I'm trying to express.
Mhm.
Um, so that was a really great opportunity, and I still am pushing myself to sort of explore different ways in which I can manipulate a space and the people
Mm.
in them to sort of tell a story.
These short will talks connected to the temporary exhibitions are really about the artists, but uh, Marcia, your work has provoked a lot of thoughts in my mind, and I'm going to just share one more and hope that you and the audience find it interesting. This theme of women in uh, interiors, such as you've shown us, and as your work in the exhibition, there were a group of American artists in the second part of the latter third of the 19th century that were very successful for depicting genteel, upper class Caucasian women in interiors where they use light and shadow and compositional structure the way you do, but it's almost like that cliche of the time, putting women, particularly married women who had children, on a pedestal. You know, they almost didn't seem like they were real people. And so what I'm asking a question, are you familiar with any of those artists? People like Edward Paxton was one who did it particularly.
Edward Paxton. He sounds familiar. I've probably seen his work before.
What I'm saying now, sharing with you and our audience is, I think your work is more solid in every respect. The spatial construction, the way you use light, everything is more concrete. And of course, at least what I'm familiar with, you're using African American women as your subject matter. It's really contemporary. It's really modern. And I think when you, as an art historian like me, when you look at those 19th century artists who specialized in the same sort of subject, and even to some degree in terms of your use of light and shadow and structure and theme, it's really fascinating because I sense the kind of artificiality, which I've always thought those works had, although they have great aesthetic beauty. But your work has that, to me, aesthetic appeal and something that's much more concrete and substantial emotionally and intellectually. Anyway, I've become a big fan of your work. Just
Thank you.
Especially more with this talk.
So, Marissa, unless you have any further thoughts, or Marcia, you have something else that you want to add? I think we've got a nice, concise type program here that we can share with our viewers.
I think just one reminder, the reception for this, it's the 27th from 4 to 6.
7?
So yeah, if you know anyone who's in the area who wants to attend, feel free to send them our way.
Thank you for participating. I really have enjoyed talking to you, and I'm fascinated by your work now and how you are being so thoughtful about it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I'm not a big shot yet, but
Not yet, but you will be.
Yeah. Well, good. Anyway, thank you for talking with us today. Thank you for submitting your work to the Maryland Federation of Art for consideration in our show. And Marissa, as always, thanks for your help technically and in terms of the questions and content of the Will Talk. So,
Of course, yeah.
have a nice day wherever you are.
thank you so much. I appreciate it.